Would you like to learn how to make this beautiful homemade strawberry shortcake? Stay tuned for the next episode of Hilltop Stovetop. Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we're teaching you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we're going to be making a summer favorite, strawberry shortcake. Now it's a little early for strawberries, but I wanted to do this now. I'm going to be using some frozen and some imported strawberries, just so everybody knows how to make this so that when strawberry season hits, you're ready to go. Now, normally, people are thinking in terms of strawberry shortcake as being strawberries and whipping cream and those pre-made cakes that you buy, which are essentially an angel food cake or a sponge cake. And that's great and it's convenient, but it's not a true shortcake. And the downside to that is that you can't, it doesn't absorb the juices really well. I mean, it tastes great, looks really pretty, but when you get juicy kind of strawberries, it kind of turns to mush. So what we're going to be doing today is making a true shortcake, which is closer to a baking powder biscuit. And we're going to start with 2 cups of flour. We've got 3 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just going to mix that up. And just the same as we did in the video about how to make a baking powder biscuits, we're going to take, in this case, butter, 1/3 cup of butter, and mix that in. And I just like using my hands to do this. Just make sure your hands are nice and clean. And I just squish it all together, rub it. Some people prefer to use knives to do this, or they have those pastry cutters. I find that just this rubbing it together and mixing the flour and the fat together works, to me, the best anyway. You know, everybody has their own style that they want to use, but big thing is that you get it evenly incorporated so you don't have any chunks of butter. And you'll notice that with the sugar and whole all butter, that this is a much richer dough than the baking powder biscuits itself. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is add in the liquid, and wash our hands first, of course. Give me a second here. Now, the recipe calls for 1 cup of milk, but what I find is particularly when you use frozen berries like these ones, you end up with a whole lot of juice in the bottom. And the same thing will happen with the fresh berries once you add in some sugar and let them sit for a bit. So rather than just putting straight milk into this cake, I'm going to use the juice from that strawberries. And for those strawberries, using grammatically correct. And so I just got measuring cup, and it won't come out to exactly 1 cup, but we'll top that up with milk. And that's going to add to the flavor, and it also gives it a kind of a nice pink tinge, which is kind of fun. We're a long way away from that cup, but then that's okay because we've got the milk. And we just make that up to be 1 cup. Just like strawberry quick. And then we're going to pour that into our dry ingredients. Give it a stir. Now, while this is going on, I have the oven preheating to 450 degrees, which for a hot day is pretty hot. But the good news is that this only takes like maximum 15 minutes to cook. So once it's up there, you're okay. Now you'll notice that this is also quite a bit moister than the baking powder biscuit. So it's almost more of a drop biscuit. And there we got it all mixed together. All right. So at this point, you can either put it into just a round, 9-inch round cake pan, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to make individual ones, because that way you don't have to make them all up at once. So I'm just going to take little, like this will make about 6 servings, I would say. Now, if this was a baking powder biscuit, of course, I'd roll it out and have nice circles. I'm going to try to get them close in size. There will be some variation, I think. And these will expand when they're cooking. Okay, so there we go. We've got 6 portions. The oven still has to get up to that 450 degrees. And when it does, we're going to pop that in between 10 and 15 minutes until they're nice and fluffy and brown. And while we're doing that, then we'll get the strawberries ready. So just bear with me for just a moment here. All right, so we're now on for the strawberries. So these ones are the frozen strawberries. The colors all kind of blend together, and they're not, they're a little bit mushier, but they will do just fine. And then these are the fresh strawberries. Now I've taken the hulls out of them and trimmed off any bits that were kind of bruised. And for those, I'm going to, as I go through them, choose some of the ones that are really just beautiful and luscious and perfect and kind of set them off to the side, because those are the ones that I'll use to decorate the tops. And the other ones I'm just going to slice up and add into the frozen berries. Okay, so our cakes are in the oven, and we've got the strawberries all cut up here, and I've got a cup of sugar that I'm going to add almost all of it to the strawberries and just give those a little stir. And they'll just sit and wait until the cakes are ready. But by adding the sugar now, that's going to actually draw out some of the moisture out of these strawberries and make a nice kind of syrup that goes with them. And then the last thing we're going to get ready here is the whipping cream. So I've got it partially whipped here now. You can use the stuff in a can, but I find that what happens with that is it doesn't last a really long time. And to help this last a little longer, we're adding some unflavored gelatin. Now, I have done this before in videos, and maybe I didn't explain it entirely well, because I'm only going to put in about half of this because it's just a small amount of whipped cream that I've got. But it's really important that you add some hot water to this and make sure that the gelatin is fully dissolved before you put it into the whipping cream, because otherwise you end up with these sort of chunks of gristle almost in your whipping cream, and that doesn't work very well. So we've got the kettle on. It's not at a full boil, but it's warm enough that it will work. It doesn't dissolve well in cold water. Okay, and then we got our mixer here. And I'm going to add the rest of this sugar and our gelatin. There. That looks good. So now we just have to wait for those things to come out of the oven, and we'll see you in a few minutes. About 9 more minutes. We'll see you then. Okay, so we're just about a minute away from that being ready, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about shortcake. So there's different kinds of pastries. There's things like very flaky pastry. Short things have smaller granules, I'll say. They're less flaky, they're a little denser, and also then there's the sponge cakes and the airy kind of things like the angel food cake or the chiffon cake that we made earlier on. So this one being a short cake means that it's got some denseness to it. It's not like bread necessarily, where it's a yeast kind of product, but it is a little heavier and will hold up to the juices in these strawberries. You can also make this with, of course, any kind of berry, blueberry, raspberry. And the other thing that it's really great with is peaches. So when it does get to be peach season, keep this in mind. The only thing I'd suggest when you're doing that is instead of white sugar, use brown sugar in it and put some pecans so you get kind of a praline, and that goes so well with the peaches. It's just amazing. So I also have here a couple of things. I've got a few, there we go, a few sprigs of mint out of my garden. It wasn't quite ready when it was time to make the tabbouleh, but it's ready now, so we'll take advantage of that. All right, so here we go. We've got 6 little cakes. Like I say, you could have done this in a big cake and then had something to present at your dinner, but and then of course you have to slice it up when that happens. So we'll just take one of these. It's crispy on the top, but the other nice thing about this is that you can do it while it's hot. And so depending on how you've timed your meal, you can take this and slice it in half and take a spoonful of these gorgeous berries, pile it on top, then a good spoonful of whipping cream. And this is where having real whipping cream versus the aerosol stuff, the aerosol wouldn't hold up to the heat at all. And then we're going to put another layer on top. Spoon some more over the top of that. One more little glop. And we'll put there and there. Whoop. It's going to hold together. There we go. Strawberry shortcake took us about 20 minutes, and it is delicious and warm and fresh and summery. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Hilltop Stovetop, where we've made homemade strawberry shortcake. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.